Alright, so I usually stay away from topics like this since, personally I think enough people already cover them, but I think I should speak up about this guy since he's been blown up on TikTok recently. And I don't think a lot of people know about his past. So if you were around back during like the whole UK YouTube vlogging scene back in like say 2013, 2014, you may recognize this guy as VeeOneEye. On the other hand, if you're into psychedelics and aren't too fond of the vaccine, you may know him as vee3rdeye. Personally, the last I heard of him up until this point was that he went on a road trip in the US back in 2015 with Sam Pepper and Drew Sharing. You can imagine how that turned out. So get on to the main topic. Let's look at the allegations. And also a quick side note, I'll be leaving the links to everything in the description. So on the 27th of September 2014, a YouTuber by the name of Ania put out a video called A Warning to Fans where she details an experience she had with Jason Viohni, otherwise known as VeeOneEye.
Quite a lot of you who watch my videos will have probably heard of the recent events with Sam Pepper. The video I'm about to make is not directly related to Sam Pepper himself, but it is around this sort of topic, so I feel like now will be a good time for me to make it because it's important that we keep awareness going about this sort of thing happening in the YouTube community. I'd like to clarify that my reasons for making this video are not for attention or sympathy or anything, or revenge, anything like that. They're literally, I'm just gonna tell you something that happened to me because I think it might prevent it happening to anyone else in the future, which is what I want. Which is what I want as in, I don't want it to happen to anyone else in the future. Like I said, my incident did not occur with Sam Pepper. It occurred with a YouTuber whose YouTube username is VeeOneEye. His name is Jason. I watched YouTube videos before I began to make my own, so I knew who Jason was. I was a fan, you might say, of his videos. I watched them, I knew who he was. He had quite a lot of subscribers at the point he started talking to me. Very early on, when we started speaking, he asked how old I was. At the time I was 15 and he was 20. Whilst I was talking to him, he asked my number and we started texting and we arranged to meet in London. Obviously, none of this was bad. This was completely, like, from what I thought, friendly and like a nice thing to happen. We ended up staying together overnight in London and he suggested buying alcohol and then did. I was fine with this initially, but then as the sort of night wore on, it became apparent that he was sort of more in control of how much I was drinking than I was. I distinctly remember him saying things like, "Oh, I think you need another drink," than going and making me it. And I feel like he had a very specific goal to get me drunk. If you're unsure as to whether this is just my perspective on it, I'm pretty sure that this was what he was thinking of, because later on, after this happened, he messaged me with this message saying, "Awesome, not seen you in ages and I'm getting you drunk again for the lols." It's really funny. Nothing I did was non-consensual, but I feel like with the amount of alcohol that he had sort of given me, I wasn't in the right state of mind to make choices like that, and that he knew that and was making sure of it. I'd also just like to remind you that at the time I was 15 and he was 20, and he was well aware of the fact that I looked up to him and he made use of his position of power in this situation. And I couldn't see this at the time, but now looking back from a neutral point of view where I'm not trying to see him in a good light or anything, I don't idolise him or anything like that, I can see that he had a very specific end goal and he just went through the steps necessary, which involved alcohol, to get that. Looking back on this video whilst editing it, I'm not sure that it's clear what Jason's end goal was. His end goal was sex. I know that words like harassment and assault and all these sort of terms are very big words to throw around, so I'm not using any of those words. I'm going to clarify that. Regardless as to what you want to label it as, I'm sure you can imagine that it's not a nice thing to have happen to you, and that if you were in my position you wouldn't want that to happen to you. Because feeling like you were used and manipulated by someone who had the power to do that and knew that they were doing something wrong, because no one likes to feel used, especially for something as personal as your own body. After this happened to me, I've gradually heard more and more cases where it's happened to other people who have been in similar situations, but those people may not be in the position that I am to share it to lots of people like I can through my YouTube. So I feel like I have an obligation to. and hopefully it will prevent similar sort of things happening in the future, because it's not a nice thing to have happen to you.
So just give a quick recap of what she said. She's a teenager, started making YouTube videos, started talking to Jason when she was 15 and he was 20. They decided to meet each other in London soon after. When they met, alcohol was involved and she felt that he was in more control of her alcohol consumption than she was, and claims that his end goal was to get her drunk enough so that he could sleep with her, which ended up being the case and ended up happening. And I'd just like to point out, just for the record, that the age of consent in the UK is 16 and the age to purchase alcohol is 18. And again, this happened when Ania was 15 and Jason was 20. So soon after Ania put out that video, Jason put out an unlisted video. I think it was called Tonight. The video's now on private, but it was either put out on like the 27th or 28th of September of that year, just judging by a tweet I found with the link to the video. But I'm not actually going to show or play the response because he's actually DMCA'd the mirrors of it on YouTube and I'm trying to avoid that. So I've basically made a transcript of what he said. I'll read it shortly and I'll also leave a Vimeo link to the actual video in the description. Tonight some people have said something about me and I'm not going to deny it. I'd just like the chance to explain myself. If you don't know what this is about, that's fine, I'm sure it'll become clear. But if you do, please listen to what I have to say. I was brought up in a Mormon family where we had a very strict set of rules. There's no smoking, drinking, no sex before marriage, and lots of other things. And to respect my parents, I followed those things. I did all those things up until about 19 when I moved out of my house and was introduced to a whole new set of people where that's what they've been doing for years. And for me, that was very exciting and new, and I was learning. Me and my parents never spoke about this kind of thing, and because of that, I didn't understand any of the rules, and I made a lot of mistakes, and that might sound ignorant and stupid. Most people make mistakes when they are growing up with sex and alcohol, and they have somebody there to tell them that it's wrong, like a parent or teachers. And this was me making mistakes and growing up, but at the wrong age. And I didn't have anyone there to tell me that was the wrong thing to do. Recently, a video has appeared where I had hurt someone a few years ago with how I was with sex and alcohol, and that's what I'd like to talk about now. I met her through watching YouTube videos and I thought she's very good and I wanted to get to know her better. So she never approached me as a fan. To me, we were just two YouTubers that wanted to hang out. From what she said, it seems she thought my intentions were to become friends and to have sex. It wasn't, and I feel it's unfair to just assume what was going on in my mind. We had the chance to spend some time together in London and she suggested that we'd stay at her father's apartment, and I thought it would be fun to get some drinks because we didn't have much in common and it was awkward and we'd know what to talk about, and at that moment that was the only way I knew how to socialise. I'm not afraid to admit, but at that time in my life the only way I knew how to socialise by drinking, and I hadn't spent much time with my friends at school and alcohol became somewhat of a dependency. So despite what I've said, I just want to reassure everybody that this is not okay. I never saw her as a fan, but her age relative to mine, it really just shouldn't have happened. I don't like who I was, and for the past year I've been trying to better myself and learn from my past mistakes. For those who have been watching me or know me in person will know I've moved away for a while, just trying to clear my head because I really hated who I was back then and I was trying to become a better person by learning from my mistakes. So I've messed up and I just want everybody to know that that's not the person I am anymore and the person I've been trying to be. And I want to say sorry to Ania and anyone else that I've hurt and anybody that's affected by this. I'm sorry. So putting all that aside, I just kind of wanted to talk about why I made this video several years after all this went down, and I have a couple of reasons. So one, you're now on TikTok, completely different audience. Not a lot of people know what happened in 2014, and apparently you've been deleting comments from those who do. Two, I looked at your channel to see what your perspective on what happened is like now, and I came across a video called Let's Talk About My Past, where you briefly mentioned what happened in 2014. I thought what you said was very, kind of like, woe is me, and to an extent, I can kind of understand. Like, you did lose everything because of this, but like, keep in mind, people have lost everything for far less, and I felt that there still wasn't a shred of accountability on your end. I also look at the comments where like people pointed out that they felt the same as me, and you were pretty like dismissive towards all of them, citing that YouTubers would just twist and manipulate everything. I'd like to see an example of that, by the way. 3, I saw that you've been streaming on Twitch, playing Minecraft of all things, which I thought was kind of funny, but not really in like a funny way, but more of like a, you can't really make this shit up kind of way. But overall, like how I feel about what happened in 2014 is that I think it's really fucking serious, and it isn't really something you can just sweep under the rug. Deleting comments isn't going to make it go away. In the event that this video going down, that isn't going to make it go away. Nothing is going to make this go away until you realize that, and at least own up to it and take some sort of accountability and not just blame it on the fact that you're a fucking Mormon or whatever. Plenty of people were and they don't do this. People are always going to bring it up. And that's pretty much all I have left to say. I don't usually make videos like this, so I'm not going to make it a regular thing. I just felt like I needed to kind of, I guess raise some awareness about this. Thanks for watching.